Hello and welcome back, Realty Pros, to another week's Realty Talk. We are always excited to have Miss Angela Skipper with us. She is our expert in all things sellers, and so she is going to be presenting for us this afternoon. We are gearing up for um, our open house and our home buyer expo. And so she's going to be sharing with us all those things that pertain to the listing portion of it. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to turn it over to Angela. And we want to welcome you and thank you, Angela, for taking the time to share with us this afternoon.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you guys can hear me okay. So I just shared my slides. I hope you can maybe give a thumbs up if you can see the slides, the Porterhouse International Realty Group logo here. You guys see it okay?
Yeah, you're echoing Associate Broker Angela.
Perfect. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Welcome back to Realty Talks. I'm glad that I can be here with you guys today, and we're going to be talking about listings. We love working with sellers, and we're just going to start off with what you actually need to do to be prepared for these listing consultations. So we put in the chat, on a scale from 1 to 10. I appreciate the responses that we got. I'm trying to get an idea of where you guys feel, your confidence level so that, can give some guidance on, what we should cover today, in addition to what's already been prepared. But I just want to navigate through. So see if I can advance the slides for you. Okay. So when it comes to working with sellers, the one thing that's most important is our preparation. Now, you've heard the saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. So, I love that saying because I think it kind of holds true. And planning is something we have control over. We don't have control over the market. We don't have control over so many things. But one thing that we do have control over is, what we learn, what we study. Now, when it comes to listings, we're all licensed real estate agents. We're all licensed salespeople. And so we are all 100% qualified to do the job. And even though we have that qualification, we don't always have the confidence to, conduct business the way we would like. So I just want to point out a few things when it comes to preparation, and that's knowledge plus action equals success. So when I think of knowledge, I think of all the tools that our brokerage makes available to us, whether that's brokerment. I don't know if you could think of some other things that help us to be more confident. One thing I'll tell you is our trainings that we have trainings in the office each month, and that training is so beneficial to increasing our knowledge and our level of understanding of things so that we can operate out of excellence and with confidence. But in addition to that knowledge and having access to all these resources, we have to put in the action. If we just have access, all of us have access to this at our fingertips. And I know we don't all utilize it. Maybe it's timing, our plates are full, but if you really want to be excellent at listing properties, going on these listing consultations, you're going to have to put these resources that are made available to us. You're going to have to practice. You're going to have to study, review. Even though we're qualified, we want to be confident. So we're going to have to put that action into place because it's what's going to bring us success. Okay, so in order to move forward with a listing consultation, what are we going to need? We're going to need a seller lead, right? So hold on, I'm going to move some things out of my screen here. We're going to need a seller lead. Once you get a seller lead, however that looks like, it may come over, a friend may refer someone to you, you may bump into someone in the grocery store who needs to sell their home. It may even be a neighbor. But when you get that seller lead, what is the most important thing that you want to do when you receive that lead? So you guys can volunteer, but I'm gonna answer my own questions unless you can beat me to it. So what we want more, and I'll give you a hint. when you have a seller lead, what's the one thing that you have to focus on that you want when you get a seller lead? So Miss Pat answered, and I'll give you a hint. It's that big number 1 right there on the screen. It says schedule the appointment. When you get a lead, don't delay, don't put it off. You want to get that appointment as soon as possible. There's competition out there. There's other people fighting for your position. If your role in your position is going to be the listing agent, you want to get there. You want to provide the level of service. You want to provide all your value so that seller, it's a no-brainer. They're already making a decision to work with you. So schedule the appointment immediately. It has to be done right away. Now, in order to, okay, we've got our seller lead, we've scheduled our appointment. What's next? We have to prepare for the appointment, right? So again, we have all these tools in place to be able to be excellent. But where are we going to go first? This is for not just the new agents. This is for some agents maybe who've been around for a few years and maybe they've just been working with buyers. They're a little rusty when it comes to working with sellers. So what we're going to talk about some things today that's going to help everyone get back on track so we can be these, listing machines and we just move forward with confidence. So we're going to prepare for the appointment. You guys had such a great conversation in the beginning and talking about the resources that we have here at Porterhouse. And I'm going to touch on those as well. So Brokerment. Brokerment has all the information we need to move forward. Okay. We have access to the leadership team. Luckily at this brokerage, you have access to your broker. Many brokerages don't have that, but your broker has done an excellent job at putting the documentation together, a step-by-step process, and it's available at your fingertips. So in Brokerment, the very first thing that we're going to do, we're going to start a new transaction. Okay. I'm going to walk you through some of these. We'll do a little bit of details and hands-on a little bit later, but I just want to get through the basics first. So you want to create a new transaction. Why are we doing that? So if our ultimate goal is to get the listing, we're going to have to put their information in Brokerment, or in essence, in the document, the agreement, the contract. We have to put their information in there because the goal is to get them to sign it, right? We want them to agree to work with us. So we start the transaction. We create a checklist, obviously, for our listing. And then we have agreements. I have agreements and disclosures here. That's what you're going to find in Brokerment once you create that checklist. The agreement is what you're going to need in order to secure that relationship with that seller. The disclosures are what's going to give them the information so that you can sell their home. Now, another thing that we have in Brokerment is a listing intake form. I've talked about these before. I really like them, and we're going to go a little bit more detail in that a little bit later. In addition to Brokerment, as realtors, we have, especially here in Maryland, we have access to Bright MLS. I always use Bright MLS when I'm preparing for a listing. So first thing I do is I go to the public record. I met, Mrs. Johnson in the grocery store, or I met my neighbor and I thought, hey, she's been living there for 10 years. I'm assuming she owns the home. Public record is going to give us a lot more information than that seller maybe share with us or that they're even aware of. So the public record not only is going to tell us who the owner is, it's also going to tell us a lot of information on that particular property. In addition to the public record, we can do our CMA in Bright MLS. CMA is our comparative market analysis. That's going to allow us to compare other properties so that we can help the seller determine the value of their home, or at least the list price of their home. Finally, the seller's net sheet. We have multiple ways that we can do a seller's net sheet, but for those who aren't aware, if you're just utilizing Brokerment and Bright MLS has a tool there that will assist you with a seller's net sheet. So we're going to dig a little deeper in the pre-listing activities. I want to dive a little bit more into Brokerment today, not so much Bright MLS. First and foremost, we talked about contracts, documents. We mentioned the listing agreement. We mentioned seller disclosures. But one additional thing that you get when you start setting things up in Brokerment and you put that contact's name in, their email address, it also prepares you for to set them up for e-sign. That's going to facilitate the process as well. We love printing out papers and getting wet signatures, right? Not exactly. We want to try to get this part set up so that when we arrive at that appointment, everything's set up, ready to go, and it aligns things so that you're in the best position to be able to get that contract signed at the end of your appointment. Now I have one here at contract, and I try to move away from using the word contract. I like to use the word agreement. So even when I'm talking to these selling prospects, I mention the agreement because I have so much I want to do for them. I provide so much value, and I want them to agree to allow me to provide those services for them. That seems a little less harsh than saying, hey, you haven't signed the contract yet. That makes someone maybe take a step back and think, oh, wait a minute, right? It's still a contract, which is the same thing as an agreement, but how we word things can, make them a little bit more comfortable working with us. And a little less defensive or wondering, hey, putting the brakes on, we want this to be smooth. We talk about we want our transactions to be smooth. Well, I want them to be smooth from the time we meet with them at the listing appointment. So the words that you use are very important. In addition to that, we talked about the resources. Now, just to kind of separate from what we've already discussed, and in order to prepare you for your listing appointment, we have other resources in brokerment. So we have agent scripts. How can that help? Well, if you've never been on a listing presentation, if you haven't been on one in a very long time, markets change, times change. So these scripts kind of remind you of some of those challenging conversations that come up. It helps you to kind of navigate through. Some of our other speakers talk about reading and reviewing these documents over and over again. Read them. That will become your second language almost, and it'll definitely increase the confidence that you have. And then one of the most important things, well, let me get to that in a second. We do have objection handling too. We want to be prepared for the objections, common objections that we face. When talking to realtors, one thing I think that kind of scares them at an appointment, what if someone asks me something I don't know the answer to? So let's learn those common objections. However, I just had this conversation, I think yesterday, you don't have to know everything. We're going to do our best to prepare ourselves to be able to make this seller feel most confident. But if you don't know the answer to something, it's best to say, let me get back to you on that. So don't feel too stressed about having to know all of the answers, especially our newer agents who haven't had a license for even a year. You can be just as confident as someone who's had it for a very long time. But one of the most important things that I love in brokerment is the sample listings. If you're ever writing a listing, we have prepared trainings. We welcome you to come in the office. You have a handful of people who are willing to help you. But if you really want to be prepared for that lead that's probably on its way to you right now, that's to know where that sample listing is. It is a blueprint. It is a cheat sheet. It tells you exactly how to fill out a listing. So if you haven't filled it out and you're confused and I don't know what these means, I encourage you to read the listing agreement. Read it thoroughly. If you don't know what it means, come in the office and ask. Someone in the office may not ask, and they'll be glad that you asked them. But it's important to read it, understand it. So that, again, how much more confident would you be if you've read it, you've asked all the questions before that appointment, than to go in there and someone asks you 2, 3, 4, 10 questions that you just have to say, I'll get back to you on that, right? So the sample listing is one of my favorites. In addition to this, we talked about action, and that's where we go into our due diligence. We've done all the prep work, but you have to put forth that, your best foot forward. You have to act and be prepared to get the listing, right? So these are some of the things you have to do. Research the property. One thing I love about this is that when you have a new lead, let's say, all right, we're all licensed in Maryland. We're not necessarily experts in these cities or locations or neighborhoods, right? So when we get a listing appointment, the person gives us their address. And if that appointment is 2-3 days away, you have enough time to research that community. So if you say, oh, I live in Southern Maryland and someone in Lanham wants me to list their home. I've never been to Lanham. I don't even know what's there. We'll drive to Lanham, become the expert. You're already qualified to do the job, but get to know that area, because we have tools in brokerment to prepare you for the listing, but it's that added touch of saying, I'm familiar with your community. You don't have to be familiar when the lead reaches out to you, but it's in your best interest and theirs for you to get familiar with it before you go to the appointment, right? So research the property, become the expert, And then once you get all that information together, you're definitely, it will definitely ensure that you will impress. You'll impress that, you have a question?
I have a statement.
Okay, but you'll definitely impress that seller. Yes, Darlene has a question or statement.
And what I learned recently from one of the home.com specialists,
Yes,
that when you can click, so if they find a neighborhood where the listing is, at homes, they have the information in the listing.
okay,
So like if they don't want to drive to the neighborhood, they can actually get up on the neighborhood.
great. So Darlene gave an excellent suggestion. Again, it's another resource we have. Homes.com is an extension of our Bright MLS. And she was saying that you can share properties there with folks and it will give you the details, a lot more details than you might be aware of. So it's another way to share with someone as well as educate yourself on how a community is and the things that are within that community. Thank you, Darlene. So just to kind of wrap that up, after I become the expert, I'm ready, to take it to the next level. And basically I have here, send an appointment reminder. So the appointment reminder for me, it's another check mark for me to be able to reach out to that seller. So if they're a lead and maybe you've only met them once, you can start building a relationship with them, start building that rapport with them. And so when I set the appointment reminder, what it does, it allows me to ask questions. It allows me to engage a little bit further to try to get them, to get to know them a little bit better. So when I schedule or set up that reminder call, I'll set up a call, and it's basically to confirm the appointment that we have set. So let's say we have an appointment set for Saturday at 11. I may call on Thursday or Friday, hey, to remind them about our appointment. It may have been set up a couple of days ago. But it's something else that we have in Brokerment, and it's under working with sellers. If you're trying to navigate and locate these documents, you can find it under working with sellers. We have our pre-listing prep. And so on the pre-listing prep, I think it's about a 5-page document, but this is one page here where it's just a greeting. It lets the person know, hey, this is who I am, this is where I come from, and this is what I'm about to do for you. So it sets the expectation for them, right? So something interesting about this pre-listing prep, and I would love to hear, how you use it, how creative people can be with it. These items are available to us for us to just be better, to be successful in our business. And if you're new and you say, oh my goodness, I don't want to reach out, I'm uncomfortable. You can take this document and you can email it right to them. And then your follow-up call can say, hey, did you get my pre-listing prep, where it's requesting that they provide additional information for you so that you are ready for the appointment. I personally like to call them and ask the questions, but keep in mind, I'll go to the next page. The listing prep asks a lot of questions. When you go to Bright MLS, you can get a lot of this information from the public record and from a previous listing. Some of it can be based on your observation, but a lot of it will come from the seller based on their knowledge of the property. And the reason I have quiz here is because I look at it's almost like a pop quiz. If you go to the listing appointment without doing this, it's like a pop quiz. You're surprised, you don't know what these answers are, hit you off guard a little bit. If we really want to be prepared, let's study a little bit and let's get, what do we do when we're studying? We look for the answers that our teacher tells us, hey, this is what the material is going to be on, right? So this document does that. It asks the specific questions that we would want to know in order to get the listing. So I'll go through these really quickly. You are the most important person in this process. That's what we're sharing with them. Please tell us what we could do to make this transaction a perfect 10 for you. What matters most to you and an agent? If you're not sure what kind of agent to be, you're asking them right there. They're giving you the answers. They're telling you exactly what they want, right? What do you expect out of our brokerage? Who else, if any, will have a say in this process? Now, we're going to hopefully know if someone else is the owner of the property, but this right here gives you a little bit more information where they can share with you if there is a co-owner. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not even a co-owner. Sometimes you may have someone selling their home and they're not confident and they want their older brother to be there, right? If that's important to them, then that lets us know we're going to make sure they're at that appointment as well. Doesn't have to be someone who owns the property, but it will prevent delaying the process. What method of communication do you prefer? Who else do you know who could use our services? Are we always asking for referrals? We're asking for referrals from clients and from prospects. So it's important to even ask here. What is your desired sales price? Who wouldn't want to know what price they're looking for? You can come in and either, make them a very happy seller by saying, hey, you were dead on, or you may have to, break the bad news to let them know what the home's actually selling for in their community. And then what is the desired move date? That helps us with our timeline. So again, these are questions that we'll want to ask. And there was something I wanted to bring up, you guys. I put it in my notes as far as asking these questions. So I'll kind of run the scenario quickly. Let me see if I can pull it together here. So I'll wait till the next slide to do it. We'll just keep going. I don't want to get too sidetracked. But then again, we have our listing intake form. I'm not going to go through all of these details because I have some other information that I want to share. But this right here is what you're sending that seller lead. If they fill all of this out, how will that benefit you? So, we have their name and their email address. If you don't have their email address, we are now able to update our documents in Brokerment. Without an email address for all involved parties, you're not going to get the listing signed unless you had that information. So let's go ahead and knock that out in advance. In addition to that, it asked for some of the information here, list price, listing agent. You can go ahead and put your name in there for listing agent. You can go ahead and claim that. And then list price, commission, you can go ahead and fill those in because you already know the answers to that. You're creating the agreement, But when it comes to their mortgage, lenders, line of credit, those are very important to capture because we mentioned earlier that we're doing a seller's net sheet. Seller's net sheet's going to let that seller know how much they stand to walk away with after selling their home. So if we gather that information up front, how valuable are you going to be at that appointment if you're sharing that level of detail? I guarantee other people in there are not sharing the level of detail that you are. So you can go in here with these little, I don't want to call them cheat sheets, but we're going to call them cheat sheets because that's exactly what they are. But I have here, these are the answers to all of their questions, right? I had a scenario I wanted to bring up with you guys. Oh, here it is. Okay, so imagine this. Let's say you have a listing appointment. You have this lead and you know that you're competing with other folks. When you know that you're competing, you're probably more nervous, right? Because if you know you're the only one, you're like, okay, if I do a good job, they're going to pick me. So I'm going to give you a quick scenario. And can you keep me track on time? Because you guys know I'll talk until Friday. Yeah. Thank you. So let's imagine you have someone who says, hey, I want you to sell my home. You met them at church. Okay. They don't know you that well, but they know you from church. And you know that their nephew is a brand new real estate agent. So you're surprised that, they want me to do a listing presentation with them. We got a rookie nephew and we have myself. Then you find out that Sister Claire from the back row referred this seller lead to a top agent in the area. And you're like, oh no, I got the rookie nephew. I have myself, who I just know, this person. I had the top agent referral. Let's see if we can throw in any more. That's enough. That's already overwhelming, right? So if we have this type of scenario and you know that I only have this one shot to get this listing, you may go in there feeling defeated. I'm not going to get this listing. The nephew's a realtor. She's definitely going to support her nephew. This top agent, how would that make you feel? It probably would make you feel a little vulnerable, right? I guarantee with this system, if you follow these processes in these systems, you have just as much chance to get this listing as any of those other people. Have any of you ever received a client? Do you have a client who knows other real estate agents? Most of them do, right? Right. Sometimes they're an agent, but everybody knows usually more than one realtor. And if you've ever had a client, trust me, they know more than you and they're choosing you. So don't be intimidated by some of these scenarios. Follow this process, do exactly what you're supposed to do here. fill in all the answers to the test before you go there for the exam, because that's basically what you're doing. Get the information up front. So of course, in that scenario, we would feel very intimidated. I can promise you that you can be more effective and make that seller lead more comfortable and confident with you. So the top agent who was referred, maybe he's a little arrogant and he's like, oh, I got this in the bag. She's contacted me. I'm Mr. Top Agent. But he's not personable. He may have a process that's not quite like ours. Ours is, it pays more attention to the detail. It's more personable. We just asked them every single question you could think of before we went in there. Then you have the nephew. And how many of you know people who say, oh, my 24-year-old, and this is not a diss to anyone, because unless you're a Porterhouse, you're good. But your brand new nephew who's in real estate, just because they're related, they are not using them. They're going to go with who they're comfortable with. Who's going to get them the best price? Who's going to make this a smooth transaction, right? That's what you're offering, and that's what you're showing where your value is. So we're going to complete all of this. There's a little bit more detail here, from bedrooms to fireplace. Use this form. Now, again, you can send this to them and have them send it back. Initially, try to get in the habit of talking to them about this form. So if you have them, if you have them to fill this out, on that reminder call, go through and fill in the things that didn't give you all the answers to the test. Okay. So if you say, well, this answer is okay, but I need a better answer there. For instance, let's say for their desired sales price, they put between 500 and 600,000. They give you something like that. Maybe you can squeeze a little bit more information out of them, but it helps you to also, have more conversation with them. Don't just be, I'm an appointment and then I show up and, oh yeah, try to start building that relationship along the way. But this is where you can gather a lot of information on the property. Why is it important to gather so much detail on the property before you even go there? Yep. So Anita said we're going to do a CMA. When you're doing a CMA, we do this so much. We kind of do these in the office, and they're pretty fun, because somebody will say, I haven't been to the property. I'm doing a CMA. If you don't have the details, then you're pretty much doing a range. You're giving them a range. We don't know if this property has been completely updated, and we don't know if it's completely outdated or in this, who knows? It could be a fixer-upper. So this allows us to get that information. Yes, Ms. Pat. Right. So Ms. Pat was just saying, with us taking this added measure or extra measure to gather this information, they're seeing the work that you're doing. It's already making them feel special, because they know that this person's already working for me and I haven't even hired them yet. Right. Thanks, Ms. Pat. So just in addition to that, we get a homeowner association. And I can tell you another great thing about this. Sometimes they don't know the answers to these. This gives them a heads up. I'm going to need this information. So when you do that follow-up call to say, hey, reminding you about our appointment, and they say, well, I haven't gotten that, you get a chance to say, well, just have it available at the appointment. When I get to the appointment, I need all these boxes filled out. It's more of a challenge when you don't have them filled out. So the more of these I fill out, the easier that process is going to be in getting that agreement signed. Did anyone have any questions? If you do, just put them in the chat. I know how chatty you guys like to be. So I'm gonna need one of you all to monitor that chatty chat. So just to kind of recap, this is what we just talked about. And this is, okay, we have the appointment. What are we bringing to the listing appointment? So, so we talked about embrokerment. We need that agreement and we need it filled out. So we've got their email address. We know how much they want to list it for. That doesn't mean that's what we're putting on there, but we know what approach that we're going to take when we come in to that appointment. Our disclosures. I'll tell you one little thing about disclosures. I like sending the disclosures in advance, even if it's just to prepare them to fill them out. So if they're going to fill them out while they're there with me, they might not know the answers to some of the things in there. Whether you want to send them a PDF or I like to send it right to them. You'd be amazed at how many people will fill it out and sign it before I get to the appointment. I love those seller leads. But you can send that to them and, to help prepare them as well. I don't think other agents are doing this. So you're going to stand out from the rest. And then the listing intake form, we're not necessarily taking that to present to them, but we may have to update that form while we're there. We may discover, things that the seller didn't tell us after we do our tour and our walkthrough. So definitely bring that. Are we bringing a piece of paper? Not necessarily, because our seller intake form is right there in Brokerment. We can type it right in there at the appointment. And then for Bright MLS, we're bringing that public record, we're bringing the CMA and the seller net sheet. When I come to an appointment, I have a packet that I leave with them. These are some of the contents in there, especially the ones from Bright. What else are we bringing to the listing appointment in addition to these documents? You guys have anything specific that you bring, a gift or something else? So Darlene says she brings her magazine. She brings the marketing material, and it's a good read. It's got like nice articles and, home decor in there.
Recording in progress.
What else? What were you gonna say?
Oh, no, I was gonna say. So, I wasn't thinking. So you can bring booties, you can bring.
Yes.
Drying rate, and not dry.
Magic. Yes. So Anita said, bring booties. So when you're coming in there, we want to respect their home. We want to show them we value your home, and they may not even take their shoes off in the home. Kick your shoes off, put booties on, show them that, again, stand out from the rest. Others aren't necessarily doing that. And you let them know, this is how I will represent you when listing your property. I'm going to protect it and take care of it just as you would. So booties, that's another thing. Anything else you guys think of? We'll bring our laptop, maybe. Our presentation, right? The obvious things. I just want to throw those in there in case you guys forget. But is there anything else?
Angela, can you hear me, Angela?
The what?
Can
Oh,
you hear me?
yes. Yes. So the second one I heard, I missed that one before, but magic eraser. So I'll tell you guys, every listing, I bring a magic eraser. They are so great. And you can put it in something cute if you want, or you actually can go to the Dollar Tree and buy a single individual one. And you give them one magic eraser. And when you go there, it's like, this person, this Porterhouse Realtor has just pulled out everything. They've done everything. But when you go there, they think cost. What's it going to cost me to get my home ready? You pull out that magic eraser. You can show them how it works if you like, or tell them what it can do. I guarantee when you leave, they're going to pull that out and start wiping stuff down. So when you get around light switch covers and things like that, they think, I have to paint every room. These kids have put their fingerprints everywhere. Give them some solutions that don't cost them anything and that actually, work well. That saved them a ton of money. This realtor came and saved me a bunch of money. The last realtor told me I had to paint the such and such room, right? They work great in high traffic areas. So, not only that, but they work great on appliances too. You have, whether it's stainless steel, people who still have white appliances, it works very well on those handles that don't look so pretty. But anyway, that's another, something else that we can bring. Shoe covers. If you have a gift, you want to bring a gift, you can definitely do that. I personally feel like if you bring a gift, bring something that will sit out and remind them that this person was here and I like this gift, whether it's a candle or whatever. They're not going to forget you. So think of something, be creative, and bring something that will kind of keep you in their thoughts. And then any type of marketing material, you can go ahead and bring that. So I put, what do you bring to the listing? I put my little empty bag there. You can put whatever you want, throw it all in your listing swag bag or whatever you want to do. But just be creative and be yourself, something that, would remind them of you. And one thing I want to remind you before you're at that, when you're at your listing appointment, a lot of the times we can overshare. Until they are our clients, we don't want to overshare. We want to pique their interest. We want them to see the value. And I'll just show the seller prospect what you are going to do to sell their property. Show your seller client how you are going to do it. Be careful not to give all the details, okay? Because all you're doing is you're probably creating a for sale by owner if you tell them everything that you're doing. That'll backfire on you. So just focus on prospect versus client. And, we talk about mindset. We're already talking about how to be prepared, how to be confident. But you have to remind yourself when you go in there, I'm not going to overshare. I'm going to follow this process. I'm going to follow the system. And this is the information I'm going to share. It's going to pique their interest enough where they want me to come back and they want more. So if you tour the home, then present your services and value. If you secure the listing, then you can review the plan and the next steps, okay, in detail. Herman has
Hey,
a
and
question?
yeah, Angela. Well, first of all, Mr. Porter was trying
Hold
to
on
get
one
on.
second, Herman. Let's get your volume up in here. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to try to tell you, I agree with everything you said, and I've seen you actually do, what you're saying, and put together little gifts and little things. One of the things that I was doing was, I had the little calendar that had the magnet on it. So while you're there, you can actually put it on their refrigerator. So now every time they see that, they go to the refrigerator, they think of you, what have you. So all of those things are really good when and leave a few business cards, not just one or two, but hey, we're thinking about you having referrals and people that you know. So let me leave you 10, okay? And then I make a little joke. And when you run out of those 10 because you've given them away, call me. I'll bring you some more. That makes people think, well, at least I need to give some of them away, if not all of them. So those are kind of little things that can help. So that's the only thing I had. Also, I want to let you know Mr. Porter was trying to get in too, but and I don't think you could hear him. So, but those were the things that I remember doing, and I remember seeing you do. So that really helped me a lot.
That's actually a great share, Herman. How great would it be to put a calendar on their refrigerator? It's going to sit there for however many months left that calendar is there. And one great thing about those calendars, when you get to the last page, it's got some information that they want to keep there after December to hold some special dates or, information, Wi-Fi, passwords and things like that. So that's a great share, Herman.
Can you hear me now, Angela? Can y'all hear
Hold
me?
on, we're going to get
We can hear you,
Shay,
Mr.
can you
Porter.
repeat that?
I can hear you guys. I don't know if you guys can hear me in the office.
Yeah, we can hear. I can hear you.
Yeah, I think people online can hear me, but the office somehow they're not being able to hear me. I think you guys need to turn the television up a little bit or something.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So yeah, Angela, this is fantastic. I don't want to interrupt your presentation. I wanted to kind of wait to the end to questions and answers for my second comment. But in regard to some of the things that you can bring as gifts, if you get an ink pen, you can get ink pens inscribed with your information on them. Those were great gifts, especially when we used to have to sign contracts, but I still think they're an excellent touch. If you really get some really nice pens, you might have to pay a little bit more for them than some cheap pens, but they just feel good in people's hand and people use them and they remember you when they're using those pens. The other thing is along with what Kermon just said, in addition to calendars, you might want to order some magnetic business cards. So it's like a magnet with a QR code on it with your business, and you might can have a little slogan to say, "Hey, let's not wait," and then just stick that on the refrigerator. And then that's also helping to push along, the fact that you're ready to rock and roll. You left this magnet business card along with your other business cards. It's stuck to their refrigerator to see it. So those type of things, all of those type of things where you're trying to, hey, I'm here a step above and beyond the other guy that just left are really important touches. So that's why I said if you want to get a good ink pen, make sure it's a real quality pen, because my pen it might be El cheapo. But if you get something that really feels good, looks good, something they can keep around, they're gonna be like, who do I want to sell my house? The guy that left me this pen or the guy that left me that pen? So those are the things that I want you to think about. And that goes back to a long-standing joke that I thought I was supporting the broker when I didn't know anything about real estate. And I bought her a box of ink pens with her information on it. And I just thought those were the best things in the world. They were the cheapest pens in the world. And when we ran against a agent who was selling houses out the box, she handed me an ink pen and she said, "Feels good in your hand, doesn't it?" She said, "That's what my clients say." So little things like that are extremely important. And I'll wait for us to get the questions and answers for the next part I want to share. Thank you.
That is excellent share. Thanks, Shay. So just to kind of move on from here, what happens at the appointment? Again, this is just a very brief recap. Tour the property. We're going to gather so much information from touring the property. That's going to help fill out the intake form. It's going to help prepare the listing. It's going to help us put that property in the MLS. And that's how you have to think when you go in there. All of that information on that intake form is going to help you put that property in the MLS. So we'll have the consultation. That happens at the appointment. We're going to finalize pricing. You've done all the things that we said. You've done your CMA, those things. So you're going to be so prepared to not just inform the seller, more than pique their interest. You want to position them so that they have no reason to not agree to work with you right at that moment. They're not going to want to let you go. They're going to want you to represent them. And then the ultimate goal is to sign the documents. Doesn't have to happen in this order, but these are the things that are typically going to happen at your appointment. Any questions? You guys have any questions? Hold on, I think I have another slide. No, we have one question. Yes. So Ms. Pat said, would you ever bring your real estate for sale sign to the appointment? I think that's a great question. I'm going to tell you why. I bring my lockbox. I want to bring my big Century lockbox and I want to leave it there because I wish they would call me up to tell me to come take this box. I leave it there so they can put their key in it. So if they're interviewing other folks, some people have a hard time with calling you and rejecting you. They're not going to do that with Porterhouse agents, but with that lockbox sitting there, they already feel committed. So yes, I leave that there. And when it comes to your sign, Ms. Pat, if you want to bring that sign, I say, go ahead and bring your sign. Whatever you have to do to leave that lasting impression, but you're already doing the work. Now, we're not sharing our secrets, but go ahead, bring your packet in and say, I'm about to put this house on the market. We're going to sit this in your garage, however you want to do it, and go ahead and operate with that mindset that this is my listing. I might as well bring my lockbox. I'm going to bring my sign. Coming soon, right? Bring all your rider, Miss Pat, bring your personal rider while you're there. And definitely it's, you're moving in, you're moving forward. So I'll put on here how to handle objections, and we're not going to go through how to handle a lot of objections because we have a boot camp this weekend and we're going to cover so many details that you're going to have to be there to just to get those little tidbits. But as far as handling objections, what are the most common objections that you've either faced on a listing appointment or that you're afraid that you may face? I can think of a couple. Yep. So Anita said, I'm going to think about it. That's a very common one. We don't want to hear that. We done brought a sign, a lockbox. we got the shoe covers at the door ready to go. We don't want that. We want them to sign that day. Was there something else? Very good. I was hoping you'd say that. So pricing is another one. That's a common objection that we face. Now, when it comes to, we have to make a decision. We're going to talk about when we have trainings and in the boot camp and all these different things in the office. You guys should come in the office sometime. We have a lot of good conversations here and it really is beneficial to us. But the objection as far as I need to think about it, we're going to get around. We'll go over some of that on Saturday, but we don't want to be in a position like that. When you've done all this work and they see that compared to potentially another appointment that they have, the goal is to get them to sign. We'll talk a little bit more about how we can do that, but that's definitely a common objection. And the other one is price, which is what I want to address today. There's been some conversation coming up. What about all this stuff going on with, what is it? Whether or not buyers, agents will be represented. And I don't think that we really have to address that too much because I feel like the systems that we already have in place have already prepared us for those things, right? We already know how to fill out a buyer broker agreement, and we know that that's how we're represented on the buyer side. So we shouldn't worry too much with the things happening right now. What's going to happen? That's really not something we should be concerned with. We know how to handle being represented from the buyer side. So when you're dealing on the seller side with a seller who says, I don't want to pay 6% for whatever reason, I heard this, I saw this on the news, or Redfin says this, That's a common objection that we hear. How do we handle that? Ding, 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 ding. Correct.
Oh, if you're looking here for questions.
Hold on one second, Bill Keys. So it's the menu of services. So when you're dealing with that, until, we address that further, you're already prepared for those types of objections. If someone says, I only want to do 3%, well, you can give them the 3.5% option if they want to go with the Pearl marketing package. Otherwise, Platinum is probably our most common package. That's what our focus is. Our mind is set on that, or Diamond. I'll go with the dial, stick with the Diamond. But don't cut yourself short. You've done all this work. You're showing the value. These systems are in place to make you better and to make you confident and to make you successful. So don't fret when it comes to that. You already know what to do. Okay. So keep doing what you're doing. And then when those things come up, this is a part of your listing consultation. So you don't have to worry with those objections. Come into the office and let's talk about it so you can practice the scripts so that you're more confident. This is just a recap. In the event that you have someone who wants to compete with some of these other folks who offer to list low, and then they have these secret little hidden things that actually, charge more at the end. This is where they can still get the same level of service, and then they can move forward with the Pearl option. I had to go back and see what it was called.
Hello, fine, how are you?
And then, yeah,
Fine.
Bill Keys, she had a question?
Yes, hi, everybody. Well, if I'm
Bill
late.
Keys, can you repeat it?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can
you.
hear you on
Oh,
line
okay.
BTs. Okay.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out how to, because I'm on my phone, to do the reaction, but I wanted to raise my hand earlier when you all were giving suggestions for, gifts and everything like that. So I'm a little late. But I was gonna say that,
That's okay, go ahead.
if you don't have the ability to buy something, or you want to be a little bit more saving or whatever, the dollar store has like coffee mugs, and I was thinking, like, you can, like, on Amazon they have those vinyl decals where you can like put your logo or put things like that. And so I was just thinking, like, if you wanted to do, or, just saying that can be an option as well.
That's a great one. I love the suggestions that you all are giving. And when you come up with more of those, come into the office and share those with us, because I'm always looking for additional things to add to these appointments. Sometimes somebody has something very creative that they're doing, and share it with us. We'd love to use it. And you might come in the office and find something that, like Bill Key says, is more affordable, an affordable option, doesn't cost much, but it still is impactful and, leaves a lasting impression with the seller. Thanks, Bill Keys. So we went to the appointment. We did everything that we, sought out to do. And then when they sign the agreement, these are the next steps. And we have this is actually straight from our consultation. So signed property disclosures, any that weren't completed prior to the appointment and signing, you can go ahead and wrap those up at the appointment. Get the copy of keys, put it in that lockbox that you brought with you. Install a yard sign, schedule photography, prepare property for showings, and then begin showing the property. So I have one last, I think, slide for you guys, and then we'll wrap up. So that's really it. The last slide was just the whole process. I love showing that little, I'll put it on here really quickly, this home selling process. Everything that we did today, it completes that top tier. You guys know I call them the 5 tiers, but it completes that top tier. So when your seller's looking at this full picture, this is what you're going to do for me. You've already done the full tier and they haven't even hired you yet. So imagine what type of service they're going to get when they enter the second tier. And then lastly, we have so much more information to share this Saturday. It's going to be incredible. We have a lot of activities planned. That's going to be this Saturday on the 9th at 9 a.m. And one last thing, with all the training that your brokerage already provides, Bright MLS offers some really good training. And a lot of them are less than an hour. They're usually 30 minutes, listing entry in Bright MLS. If you don't know how to put something in Bright MLS and you don't have 2 hours to a training, 30 minutes, the lady will run through and tell you things that I guarantee you are not doing. That'll make your life easier. Creating a CMA in Bright MLS, everyone struggles with the CMA. It wouldn't hurt to go back there and say, hey, am I doing this right? And then finally, tracking listing performance. Once you get your listing, there's so many tools in Bright that you can take advantage of. Reverse prospecting, all these great things. If you haven't heard of it, we'll talk about it a little bit more on the upcoming training. So I hope that you'll be in tune, and I think that's it. Thanks,
Hey,
guys.
Angela?
That was
Angela?
fantastic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Cameron.
No, what I was going to say, I just want to say this very quickly. I know we're going to probably do training on this at the upcoming event, but just want to leave this with people. You know, when you can do everything that Angela talked about and do it correctly, and a person might tell you still, I want to think about it. And I think we hear that a lot. And I think it kind of, sometimes it can mess with the person, it can mess with us, because people say that because they feel that that's an objection that you can't overcome, you know, because it just makes so much sense. Of course, we want to think about things. And so people feel that if I say that, you know, it's nothing that you can say. Where the truth is, believe me, they've already thought about it. The very reason that you're there is because they're thinking about it. So all the thinking about it is really in there. What they're really saying is that I'm a little bit fearful because you're taking me someplace I've never been. Sometimes they're saying that I really want to do this, but I'm not 100% sure that you could get me where I want to go. So sometimes in all objections, there's usually some type of, you know, misunderstanding or a little bit of fear or whatever. And we know that a confused mind a lot of times will say no, or they'll say wait or whatever. So what we have to make sure that we do is when a person says, well, I want to think about it, you know, one of the things you can say is, you know, and I understand that that's exactly the reason why I'm here. Let's think about it. Let's walk through it. Let's talk about it. Because when they say, I want to think about it, and you say, okay, fine. When you leave, believe me, they're not going to think about it. The only thing they're going to think is, got past that. We'll do this later. And a lot of people, I want to think about it. It's just a way to procrastinate from doing something that's uncomfortable, even though it's something they need to do. So just something to think about, but don't let it throw you. Don't let it rock you. Don't let it make you think that you didn't do, you know, a great job. It's just people just really need more information. They want to be sure. They are afraid. You have to understand where it's coming from. So just wanted to throw that out there, and we can probably do some more training on that later. And I hope y'all could have heard.
That was yeah, I heard you, Cameron, and I don't know if they can hear us. I hope they can. And I just wanted to, before we go, guys, I just wanted to say that, first of all, Angela, you did a fantastic, our associate broker, Angela, is just great at what she does, but she did a fantastic presentation. One of the things that I really, really love about this part of the seller's presentation is that there is some real psychology that we wanted to make sure that we employed when we created the intake form. So I just wanted to talk about a few of those things real quick. So it's called the intake form, which signals to the person we're trying to take them in. And what the assumption should be for us as agents is that we've already taken you in. You're my client. Okay. So that's the psychology of it. It's the intake form. I'm taking you in. You're my client. And so that form then is just a touch. It's one of those things we call touches. And I'm going to give you a little story. So there was a guy who he was running for a Senate office, a state Senate office, and he was sending out mailers and making phone calls. And he had talked to this one person a number of times, and the person had, you know, said, "Hey, I'm going to definitely give you my vote come election day, et cetera, et cetera." And so, you know, that in that person's mind, that vote was secure. So they moved on, and lo and behold, when they didn't win the election, they reviewed some of the people who, you know, they thought would have voted for him, they saw this particular person and they said, hey man, you know, what happened? You know, they called the person back, said, what happened? And he said, man, I really liked you. I really was going to vote for you. I promise you, I didn't have any intention, but your opponent came and knocked on my door. And once I shook his hand, once he touched me, I realized I had to give that man my vote because he touched me. So touches are extremely important. And in sales, we say touch. It can be all of those things, the phone call and all of those things. But one of the most important things you can do is make sure you go and touch that person. When you go into their home, shake their hand. Become as familiar with them as they can, because that's going to help you overcome a lot of the objections. At Porterhouse, we teach people will buy from you. They will take anything you say if they like, trust, and believe you. And that comes from being a touchy-feely person. Some people are not touchy-feely, and you got to kind of know that too, and you got to give them the space. But at the same time, you want to make those familiar touches. There's even presidential handshakes. Presidential handshakes is when they don't just shake one hand, but when they put that other hand on top of the hand. That's reaffirming that, you know, I want to get to know you. That's how people win votes. It's little psychology behind the touches that we're telling you to do. And the intake form is just really a touch. And then beyond that, you're going to get more touches, because now what is that intake form doing? That intake form is getting me as the client to talk positively about things that I know. Who doesn't want to talk about themselves, first of all, and then be able to tell you the stuff that I know that you don't know. So now I'm telling you about my house. I'm telling you about what I'm thinking. I'm telling you about how much I want. It's all of these things. You're giving me these warm and fuzzy, these dopamine releases. They say the chemicals that release happy hormones in your brain, because, hey, this person, I thought this was some different kind of form, but they're asking me about me. And then they're asking me about business, but they're asking me about me. They're asking me what I want, what I feel, what am I looking for? So those things are all psychology that's built into this very, very important form that many people overlook. The other thing is that it's differentiating you from the other guy. If the other guy didn't send it and he has an appointment coming up and he didn't do an intake form, they already feel like they're wasting their time when he walked through the door. Man, you don't even know anything about me. You don't know how I feel. You don't know what I like. You don't know what my price is. You don't know what I want out of this sale. The other lady, she sent me all this information. I done filled out all this other thing, which is the next point of the psychology. It's getting that person committed to you. Because now you done made me do homework. You done made me turn in all this information about me. I'm almost in love with you at this point. Look, we have a relationship, so to speak. You asked me questions and I gave you answers to. This guy's just walking in the house. He don't know anything about me. I don't know him, but I feel like I kind of know you, and I feel like you kind of know me. It's getting you committed to me. And that goes to the things that we talk about, ABC. ABC, you're going to learn about this in boot camps. Always be closing. All of these things are closing before you ever even begin. You're already closing the sale because we already want you to assume that the client is your client. You always assume the sale and you always be closing, always finding a way to close the sale. I think it was Caramon the other day in the office, a story about when I first started selling newspapers. And I sold the Washington Times, and I knocked on the door, and I was giving my sales pitch to the guy, and I was about 12 years old, maybe at the time. And the guy just reached in his pocket and handed me the $20 bills, but I wasn't finished my sales pitch. So I kept going. And he said, didn't I already give you the money? And he said to me, you already have the sale. You don't have to pitch anymore. Always assume the sale. That taught me a very important lesson at 12 years old. If he hands you the money, I've already got him. That's it. I mean, now start writing up the agreement. If they have any further questions, then you go to the rest of the presentation. But you tell them, hey, I want to make sure that you're well informed. So is there any other questions that you might have? Okay. Which goes to my last point. You talked about triggers and objections. When Jasmine was when she was doing pharmaceutical sales, they used to send her out and train these pharmaceutical sales agents to pharmaceutical sales reps so much so that they almost like they're teaching the doctors. about what the meds can do, and they're talking to the doc, and they call it detailing. I love that word, because whenever a person has an objection to me, that means I haven't given you enough details. I haven't given you enough information for you to say yes. So let me detail you a little bit more about why you need to use this and why you need to use me and why. So, I hear that. I hear that. And I understand exactly what you're saying. Maybe I didn't share this detail with you. So the detailing process is very important. You're going to learn that when you come to these boot camps. We don't put these boot camps online. You got to be in the place to get the business. Those who show, they will know, and those who don't won't. So make sure you show up, okay? The last thing, again, I want to reiterate, the like, trust, and believe. You have to be a personable person, because you're not really in the house business. You're in the people business. People got to like you, and you got to like people. If you don't like people, I'm not reaching in my pocket and handing you anything. I think that guy that bought that Washington Times, he something about me connected with him, and he saw that I was really diligent about doing what I was there to do. And either he felt sympathy for me, or he connected with me immediately and said, this kid is out here trying to make a decent hustle. He's well prepared. He knows his stuff. I'm not going to put him through the person. Go ahead and let me give you the money, and you sign me up right away. And so those things, I believe he liked me. I believe he trusted that I really worked for the Washington Times. And I think he believed that I had been through the process and knew what I was going to do. And he was going to end up getting that newspaper, because I didn't have it to give him to him right then. This was a subscription. You sign up for it now, you get it later. He handed me the money and moved on with life. And so from that point on, I always knew people will give you the money if they like, trust, and believe you. And that's all I wanted to say. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm done. But thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Thank you, Angela. Thank you for everyone's contribution today. And this was a really great training. Yes. We are excited. I mean, this was just a little, no, this is, what is that called? The mouche bouche or something like that? Not even an appetizer, right? And so just imagine what we're going to get on Saturday. And not only that, so our boot camp is from 9 until noon, right? The really great part about it also, so you all please come prepared, is directly following the boot camp, we have an open house in Cameron Grove, which is what, maybe Angela, you probably know, 8 minutes from the office. Sure, about 8 minutes from the office, right? And so it only makes sense to me that while you are here at the open house, at the boot camp, that you give yourself some additional time to be able to come over to the open house. You can see how an open house is conducted for one of our listings. And even before that time, this is really great, guys. Even before that time, this evening, we are planning for our lead locomotive. So please plan on joining us this evening at 6 o'clock, or I'm sorry, at 5 o'clock, because not only do we have this listing in Cameron Grove, but we're going out to get some additional listings. So we're going to be prospecting this evening from 5 until 6:30. Okay. And we will be able to do that right around this listing. So you guys, please, put this in your schedule. Make this a priority for your business. Okay. Are there any more questions? Oh, we will be meeting. So what we'll do is, yes, we'll meet in the office. We'll meet here at the office at 5 o'clock. We're going to take, and actually, if you could get here a little bit before 5, that would be great, so that we can be heading out at 5. And so that it will give us a solid hour and a half. Of course, we want to go ahead and do this prospecting before it gets dark. And we feel like if we do that from 5 until 6:30, we should be good to go. So please meet us here in the office, 5 o'clock for the prospecting, for this evening's lead locomotive, okay?
Place.
That will replace this evening's training. That's what we are doing for this evening's training, is the lead locomotive. So we will not be having our mastermind this evening. Okay, any other questions well, actually, yes, Angela.
If for whatever reason they're not here at 5, just put in WhatsApp and we'll let them know where we are. I don't, not here, if they can do 5:30 or
Right.
6, they can still meet up with us.
Great suggestion, Angela. So Angela says so that if you are not able to be here by 5 o'clock, not a problem at all. What we will do is we will just put in the WhatsApp where we are, and you can meet up with us so that you can still, I mean, an hour and a half is great. An hour is good. Half hour is still good. Okay. So if there's nothing else, then we're going to go ahead and we are going to, unless there's some additional information, we'll go ahead and we'll finish up for this afternoon, and we will see everyone at 5 o'clock this evening.